We are following the adventures of Rebbi Shimon and his son, and they are in a cave. The Gemara says, and they would take off their garments and they would sit with unto their necks in sand. Says Rashi, in sand, and he changes from the Aramaic bechala into Hebrew bechoil, sheyu poishtin bigdeim, for they would take off their garments, shelo yivlu, that they shouldn't wither, umechasin ervasen bechoil, and they would cover their nakedness with sand. Continues the Gemara, kula yoyma garse, the whole day they would learn the texts, ubeidan talui livshu michsayu matzlu, and at the time of prayer they would put back their garments on and pray, and afterwards they would take their garments off again. This seems to be the routine of Rebbi Shimon and Rebbi Elazar in the cave. And the question is, what is the Gemara teaching us? What's the message over here? What's going on? Why is it that they would take off their clothes? Why is it, Rashi explains, and the Gemara explains also, that they were concerned that the clothes would wither? And who says that if you wear clothes, they would necessarily wither? And why is it that Rashi adds that they were concerned to cover their nakedness? And why is it that when it comes to prayer, they put their garments back on? Why weren't they concerned of that? Their garments being withered then? And what is the meaning that after that they davened, they took their garments back off again? And I think what we're being taught here is a certain mindset, a certain value system that Rebbi Shimon and Rebbi Elazar adopted. And that is that the main thing in life is to be working on one's inner being. Externalities have no real value. It's the naked self that's important. It's what I am inside. It's how I introspect. It's how I clear my mind and how I perfect my thinking. That's the real goal. And therefore, if I'm naked, who cares? It's not about externality. Nobody's looking at me and I'm not looking at anybody else. But there is a truth that we are affected by and aroused by the outside. That deserves to be in the ground. That needs to be covered up in the sand. And the only thing that's valuable is from the neck up. The bottom feeds as necessary, but it's like dirty roots. What we need is the stem and the fruits, which is the mind, which rises above all of that lowliness. That's important, and they would work. The gears have a yasve begir. They would koliyoma garse. They would be involved in texts of how would they purify their thoughts and their minds, except for one thing, and that is prayer. Prayer is a time where it's important how I present myself. Prayer is when I stand before my Creator, before the Master of the universe. There I have to be decent. I have to have what we would call a talus, a garment of distinction and of honor. That's the place where I need to worry about how I present and how I look and how my externalities is with my relationship with God. And after that, take it off again and back into introspection, back into working on my inner self. And what the Gemara is trying to teach me over here is that's the logical extension, and this is the appearance of that mindset. If I'm only really worried about my inner mind, my purity of thought, and I'm worried about my externalities really going to wither me away, it's going to chisel away, it's going to put my ability to relate to God in tatters, then I have to avoid it. What I need to do is worry about my inner being, and the only place for an externality is with God. That's the case. Rebbi Shimon and Rebbi Elazar's daily routine makes a lot of sense.